Hi, welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm Andy Hawkins, the senior pastor of the Village Church, and I'm here with Neil Clark, who is one of our governing board members. And Neil, we're here to talk about the governing board because this is that time of the year, as you know, where we've just had elections of officers, and they take their office on various boards and committees this month and then serve for the next year. And so what we've been doing is using this as an opportunity to introduce various boards to our congregation so they'll be able to put faces with names and understand something about the nature and function of those organizations. And also because we have Shell Point TV here to be able to introduce the same kinds of concepts to the community so they'll have a little better insight in how the Village Church actually functions in terms of its leadership. Mm-hmm. And so the governing board is the governing authority of this local church, the Village Church, and it's made up of what kinds of people?
Okay. Well, it's a collection, really. Yeah. The church's officers, and the officers all serve on the governing board. Mm-hmm.
So you have people like there's a church secretary and treasurer, those kinds of people,
those kinds of things. Then there is a representative group of elders, so that there's a strong tie between the Board of Elders and the governing board. And then there are people who are in charge of various departments or ministries, or people who are chosen by various departments or ministries to be a part of the governing board. So there's someone from the Christian Education Committee, someone from the Missions Committee, and those various parts of the church body. And so it's a conglomeration of leaders, really, of the church who know what's going on in all these various capacities.
Absolutely. And so that turns out to be about a dozen people, right, who serve on that board. And we have, an interesting mix of people because we have both men and women who serve on the governing board. We also meet once a month. And tell us a little bit about what happens in a monthly meeting.
Well, the pastor is the chairman of the governing board. And the agenda is distributed to us so we can read reports. One of the things that happens is the various members of the church staff hand in reports to the governing board, and those are reviewed and questions asked and so forth, and as well as various departments and committees all report to the board. So a lot of time is taken up with reviewing what's going on and what are plans for the future. And that's also a very real part of the discussion of the governing board. Where do we go from here?
That's right.
What's next? The use of funds, a lot of things of that nature, which maybe we'd call the nuts and bolts of the church.
That's right. So pretty much anything that gets spent at some level has to go through the governing board, right? At some point, the governing board basically approves of a budget. Eventually, even the congregation has to approve that budget, but a lot of work goes into it, and the governing board essentially establishes it. And so that's one of the ways in which the governing board oversees spending. But then when other requests come in from various ministries, or sometimes even emergency opportunities that we might have to support a ministry someplace, either locally or internationally, that comes through the governing board as well. They discuss the opportunities and the relative value of those kinds of things. So anything related to spending obviously comes through the governing board.
And not only spending, but every once in a while we have a joyous time of being told that someone has made a very significant, anonymously or otherwise, a gift to the church, and we have to decide how can we use this for the kingdom of God. And that's always a challenge, but also a very pleasant one.
That's exactly right. And of course, during the several years that I've been here, we've also been involved sort of in a planning process. And there are people in the governing board who have been involved in that process at one level or another. Sooner or later, those plans come back and are reviewed by the governing board. So there's always a recognition of what God has been doing for us and but also where he's taking us in the future. I think that's an important element of what the governing board is interested in doing. Well, thank you, Neil, for joining us at this time, and we're looking forward to introducing the governing board to our congregation this coming Sunday. And we hope that you'll join us for our Sunday services and get engaged with us in whatever way you're able to do so. And so blessings to you from the Village Church, and we hope to see you soon.